They're not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us.
Hello and welcome to They're Not Sending Their Best. Today we're going to be talking about Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. I'm Tim Phillippe and with me is Andrew Turner. Andrew, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, is he going to last that much longer? And if so, is he going to do so long enough to create the nation of Gilead?
Insert cut joke here. Yes, he will. I think he's going to last another 3 to 6 months. I think that it won't matter. And no one will know who Mike Johnson is in 6 months.
You think, I mean, because he's definitely getting primaried right now, as are, by the way, audience, every single member of Congress. So, you know, vote out the people you don't like. But Mike Johnson, common name for the common man, he's not their best. And I think he's going to be gone sooner just because of the whole Kevin McCarthy thing, because he gave out that same deal that Kevin tried to give out and then got fired for even attempting to do. And now you've got, what's the big forehead, Matt Gaetz, saying that he wants to have him removed from office now, even though Mike Johnson, as we're going to get into, as one of the many reasons he's terrible and bad for America, tried to overturn the election, something Matt Gaetz really wanted to happen. So I don't know what to say about them other than they're not sending their best. Good night. No, I'm kidding. Why are they before we get into all the reasons why Mike is just, bad for democracy, why are they not like, my question is, who do you think would be the next person there? Because they haven't found anybody that isn't just a warm body that isn't going to be him. I mean, he's as far right as you can go, as again, we're going to get into with the whole, just simply the trying to overturn the election. Like, who could possibly take that spot? And do they not even know and just don't want to govern? Like, that's my personal theory.
They don't want to pass any legislation until Donald Trump is elected. So
right. They've as much said so, actually.
So if anybody passes even a budget, like a reconciliation, kicking the can down the road, if anyone passes a farm bill, if anyone adds changes to the IRA, if anything, Ukraine and Israel funding bill, we just saw that immigration was a deal that was it was a right wing. It was the most right wing immigration deal in this country in 60 to 70 years. And it had the votes to pass, and Joe Biden was going to sign it. And it got scuttled by Donald Trump saying, I don't want him to have the win.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. The Trump MAGA Republicans in the Republican Party, which make up the vast majority of the Republican Party at this point, have decided that obstructionism is the only way to go. Now, before Trump came along, this has been a Republican problem. This was a problem with the Tea Party before it, with the Gingrich wing, with Reagan's election. The idea of the government, we're not having debates anymore about the government not working in a specific way or changing how we govern, how we implement policy. Instead, we're arguing whether or not the government itself, the very entities that it has become, are worthy of existence or even functioning. And we could pass a bill today to get rid of the debt ceiling, to just say, if we don't pass a debt ceiling, it automatically goes back to the previous year's budget and credit limit. And we could no other country has this problem, but we continue it because it's a way to garner political headlines and hold leaders' feet to the fire from the base of both the parties in a fight that is unnecessary. Well, it has gotten to the point now that obstruction has become such a tenet of the GOP, especially when Trump's not in power, that no one who's doing even the base level of governing, just funding the agencies that exist, like the FAA, the EPA, the Department of Education, the Department of Homeland Security, the IRS, the highway, the National Park System, the National Institute of Health, all these things, the fucking Smithsonian museums. They don't even want to pass a budget to keep these things running. The fucking U.S. Postal Service, they don't even want to cast a budget to keep these things running because it will be a win for Joe Biden. And because of that, when you get in the actual halls of power and you realize, oh, I have to pass something, Like I have to pass something because otherwise all our donors will stop funding us.
Mhm.
Like straight up.
Yeah.
If I don't pass a budget, if I have the US credit rating crash, if I make it where people like, if I crash unemployment by essentially temporarily firing all these government workers while we don't have a budget, if I stop the growing economy, if I stop corporate profits, then they are going to not fund us in the next election. So I actually do have to pass this budget. But the ideological right-wing base is going to say, don't pass anything.
Mhm.
So as long as you take that job, it's a suicide mission. Like you are a kamikaze right now. If you take Speaker of the House in the Republican Party, you have decided to commit seppuku. Like you are allowing yourself to be stabbed in the gut the moment you take that job. It is a job that comes with the forbearing knowledge that you will not be going home in the political sense.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think like he'll pass a couple more things that have to get passed. Matt Gaetz will petition that he be kicked out. There will not be enough votes to get him reelected.
Yeah.
The question is does he step down like McCarthy?
I think he would
Because,
step down over it because
he can keep running as long as he wants.
Yeah.
And then we can have that fucking fiasco happen again where we go 30, 60, 90, 120 days until the next election of not having a Speaker of the House. And for all intents and purposes, like not having a budget then and accomplishing the same thing. Like, why wouldn't Matt Gaetz do it? He will accomplish the same thing if he shuts it down, like, and makes this into a show and shenanigans.
From a game point of view, I don't see it. I mean, anything could happen. So, but I don't see it happening just simply because that close to the convention and the primary in the summer, what you said, 3 to 6 months. That just makes them look worse. I mean, but you know, it's not like they aren't keen on making themselves look terrible anyways, because they do so pretty regularly. I mean, so much so, like you said, with this border bill that didn't pass. Greg Abbott, who's causing this ruckus down here in Texas, even said he wanted this border bill passed. He's not towing that Trump line of I want, we want it to be an issue during the election. Like
there is not a crisis at the border.
No, there's not. People are down there now, and there's no one crossing.
There is a crisis for a lot of people that are legitimately under United Nations and U.S. law seeking asylum here because they are running from gangs, they are running from poverty, they are running from political and military instability. A lot of that we caused the United States indirectly and directly.
Google the CIA and Guatemala.
Asylum legally. There's a crisis for those people, but there's no crisis for the average American at the border. Like the average American doesn't have to deal with the border.
No.
Like no one
not
in
a
the
single
Dakotas,
person.
Yeah. And like, of course, Greg Abbott wants it taken care of because like they want federal funding to like, and they don't, who doesn't like, unless you're a psychopath. Like I don't think that most people want children and like migrants drowning in the Rio Grande. And
tell
like
that to
barbed
Greg,
wire.
who's putting barbed wire buoys in the fucking down underwater. Like,
I think that's all posturing, right? Like I don't think he actually wants that. I think he's willing. I think he's willing to have that happen.
Sure.
I think that it's posturing though. I think if he could actually wave a magic wand, he'd be like, let's get rid of this issue other than being like, because like you could use the same dog whistles and be like, if immigration got solved, you could use the same dog whistles and be like, Muslims. Like, I don't want Muslims coming in the country. I want the Muslim ban.
They tried that in 2020.
And get the same people. Yeah. And that's what I mean is like, they are just because there are photos and videos of it and because it is in the news, this is something they can make a culture war out of. But the fact is like there's a lot of bills that could get passed that like if they didn't have the right-wing fascist Fox News like 24/7 hour like push to the right problem, there's a lot of things that a lot of right-wingers would pass with the left, with liberals. Like Romney Care is Obamacare.
Yeah.
Like it was the right-wing idea. Like
so
there
crazy.
are tons of like packages you could hand out to corporate America to like green and incentivize and like make it where they there are
the right wing misses
of
out on a lot
breaks.
of capitalism because they try and keep doing tax breaks to people. Like,
Ideology.
it's really stupid, and because of their ideology, they like they one thing I've noticed, at least like in corporations that I know are run by more right leaning people, you know, the whole bring you back into office, and we'll get to Mike Johnson in a second. This is all kind of has to do with him. Wanting people like wanting one, just that simple control, but two, not wanting to like we could pass some bill that says, hey, if you have an entirely remote workforce, that's going to reduce your carbon footprint, a thing that is likely made up by, ExxonMobil, but it could still reduce your carbon footprint by not having all your employees drive into the office. Like we reduced carbon emissions during COVID when everybody was working at home by goddamn a lot. And you could just do simple things like that. But the right wing never will do that. They will keep towing their line. That is,
child tax credits. Like we eliminated child poverty in the United States for 2 years.
2 years.
COVID. Like children were eating all across the United States. They had housing. Like not every child, don't get me wrong, but we eliminated like children with housing, child poverty. Like we made sure they were all eating. We did that through policy.
Yeah.
And when that lapsed and we didn't renew it, like those children are now going hungry again.
Yeah.
And we could solve that through a very bipartisan, easy signature, but giving the Democrats a win whenever they're a Democratic president is unacceptable. Obstruction has become the new thing.
Yeah.
And now that has come to the
do.
debt ceiling and the budget to the point that you can't even pass those without, and Kevin McCarthy set up the rules for this session of Congress, for this session of elected Congress when he was House Speaker. So anyone at any time, like, can call for a vote, for a voice vote on whether they have confidence in the Speaker of the House. And until there's a new speaker, like on the left with a left majority, those rules are going to be in effect, right? So at this point, I do not think that the Republicans are going to go through, I would venture 1 to 2 more speakers by
the end
time
of
of the election.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, I like watching their chaos. I don't like it for the sake of our, country, but their chaos, it does bring a little bit of morbid joy to my heart.
As the DOJ reopens its case into Matt Gaetz.
Oh, they did just do that. They did just officially do that. Yeah.
I think how does he get into the press in a way that doesn't have to do with that? Like,
and he said that his whole thing was
the head of Mike Johnson.
Yeah. I know that Matt Gaetz had said, or it was released that he only went after Kevin because he allowed that investigation to happen in the first place. So that's why Kevin, but it doesn't matter. We're talking about Mike Johnson here. We were going to talk about Kevin, but he lost his job.
Like Lauren Berbert, like needs to be in the news. MTG needs to be in the news. This is a way, like there is a large swath of the elected Republican Party that is going off the like celebrity route, right? Like the way that they maintain their power structure and their sway within the halls of power of Congress is the fact that they are well known by the base that elects those members, right? So they're regularly on Fox News, they're regularly on Newsmax, they're regularly on right-wing radio programs, and that is like a third to half their job besides calling donors is like being a celebrity in this niche like right-wing universe.
Yeah.
And that is how I think this is a surefire way to get interviews on Fox News and CNN, right? Like this is a surefire way. All you have to do is call for the Republican speaker to be taken down, somebody that is unpopular. Congress has been unpopular since like the 70s.
Like, this is the most unproductive Congress in 50 years or something like that too.
And I've heard that every year.
Like, true. It does sound...
like I remember under Obama us being like, they've passed so few bills compared to what they passed under Bush and Clinton. I remember like arguing with people on the porch of a coffee shop with you there about like how obstructionist the Obama Congress was. And now we have hit a level where they can't even hold their own speaker in the office because they are so obstructionist. And until the Republican Party dies, God willing, inshallah, as soon as possible, like it's going to be this way.
Yeah. So while the Republican Party is still here, they are still, well, at least in the House, controlled by Mike Johnson. I wouldn't say controlled. That's definitely not true. But he still has,
the establishment wing. He's in control of the establishment wing.
Sure. But he's also, let's keep in mind, he is 2 heartbeats away from the presidency. If, for some reason, this bullshit Biden impeachment thing works, it won't. But if for some reason it did, you got Kamala Harris, which they would probably try and do it too.
If the gem that keeps Joe Biden from turning to dust somehow loses its magical charm, and then Kamala Harris dies of excitement immediately after, Mike Johnson will become president of the United States.
And that man, and I'm going to run through just a few things here before we get, to his real weird things. He's a young Earth creationist, meaning that he believes that the Earth was created 5,000 years ago, as a lot of evangelicals do. I myself believed in that until I was, 20 years old. Until, excuse me. Talk for a second.
Yeah, God made the Andromeda Galaxy.
At this point in the episode, Tim had a coughing fit and Andrew promoted young Earth creationism. Follow the show on TikTok and maybe we'll post it there. Okay, Tim stopped coughing. Back to the show.
Sorry about the weird cut. I had a choking fit. I've been sick for like 3 days.
I want that TikTok of me just telling jokes while you die.
Sure, yeah, I know. That'll stay in as behind the scenes. But yeah, for you, go to TikTok, follow us on TikTok and Instagram, and you'll see a bit about Andrew, I think, promoting creationism and me choking to death.
Yeah, it's me promoting the idea of creationism and explaining it while Tim is smitten by the Lord himself.
Yeah, God definitely didn't want me to talk.
It's pretty cool.
No, but Mike Johnson is a young Earth creationist. I was one myself. Until someone explained the speed of light to me, about how Andromeda is a million light years away. Took a million years for that light to get here.
Dinosaur bones didn't get Tim.
Yeah, because my church and a lot of evangelical churches said dinosaurs were on the ark, but they died off because the climate was different afterwards, and blah blah blah. But like, I don't trust me. I've picked those to death. We don't need to. I
think it's a scavenger hunt. I think God hid it like Easter eggs. I think they're just made to be cool. Be like, oh, dragons, yay.
There's also, and I wish we had gotten to this on our conspiracy episode, there's people that don't believe that dinosaurs exist, that they believe that these were bones planted by Satanist evolutionists or something like that, and it's crazy shit.
Real. The next step is dinosaurs never existed because the dinosaurs became birds, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the birds aren't real was a prank by a guy that we mentioned on the last episode, ATC episode, but the dinosaurs aren't real. Girls, she was real. She believed that, and there are again people that still believe that.
Rome isn't real, girl.
There's a Rome isn't real. Oh, okay, that's a different thing. We'll do another.
God, I have to show you Rome isn't real.
Show me later. Show me later. We'll get to it.
Oh my God, I don't believe you don't know about Rome isn't real, girl.
Dude, I once I got out of the stupidity.
She's a queen.
Dude, I ran away from the stupidity when I stopped being a conspiracy theorist 15 years ago. Okay. So aside from the fact that Mike Johnson, who we're here to talk about, if you haven't guessed, there's not a lot of crazy things about him, but the things that are crazy about him are crazy. One, obviously the creationist thing, which isn't that crazy. Lots of people believe that, but he also was one of the people who was going around to congressmen during the 2020 election trying to get it overturned. And he was helping push those fake elector ballots that were supposed to come in and things like that. He also wants to overturn same-sex marriage. He wants abortions to be illegal at the national level and punish any doctor who gets an abortion who gives an abortion with 1 to 10 years in prison and to be fined $10,000 to $100,000. Yeah.
He's a theocrat.
He's a theocrat.
A right-wing evangelical Christian nation should be imposed upon everyone in the United States.
Yeah,
yes,
and
he is a theocrat.
That is a kind of government that you see in The Handmaid's Tale, that you see in that you see in Afghanistan right now with the Taliban, Saudi Arabia.
I mean, I would argue the Taliban is much more secular.
Are they? I thought they. I didn't know that.
I mean, they provide a lot of government services to people of both Sunni and Shia, and arguably some Kurds.
Not women.
They're a horrible right wing like theocrats. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that Mike Johnson's they're not anti-governing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Mike Johnson is anti-governing. So when you're worse than the Taliban, you've got something really bad going for you, Mike Johnson.
I don't think he's worse than the Taliban in a lot of important key ways. Don't get me wrong. Sure. But I'm just saying that he's a theocrat who wants to dismantle the system and is now in the most powerful position in Congress, arguably, other than majority leader of the Senate. So I mean, arguably the most powerful position because of its closeness to the presidency.
Yeah. And it's terrifying.
I think he will not be remembered. Right?
No, he won't be
will
remembered, but he
historical,
will-
anecdotal footnote.
The problem
But
is,
he
it's
will
not
be
that
gone
people
in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, but my fear is it's not. I don't. Sure, he won't be remembered, but there's a lot of right wing people who no one remembers that did a lot of damage. I mean, the motherfucker that wrote the
Sure, but
Project
I don't think
2020 or the people that wrote Project
Sure.
2025. No one's going to remember them, but they are doing a lot of
Sure, I mean,
damage.
I don't believe that that human beings should care about being remembered in the first place.
Well,
but
no.
but that being said, I'm just saying that like not only will he not be remembered, but he is ineffectual. Like the job in itself is an ineffectual job at this point. Like there is no purpose to it. If there
Has he
was a
not
Republican
accomplished
Congress.
anything? Like I don't really pay
He
attention
passed
to
a
him.
budget
like,
bill. He
well,
passed
the
a
budget bill that they're
reconciliation
going
budget
to
bill.
kick his out of his job for, but like other than
Yeah.
that, yeah. So he's not good. Like even to the Republicans who hate
No
watch
one's
the
good.
show, Mike
Yeah,
Johnson's a
no one
bad
can wrangle
Speaker of the
them.
House.
There's
Like,
no
so-
LBJ like walking through the halls of Congress right now. That's like,
Sure.
like that was one of Biden's selling points that never turned out to be true.
Oh, I
is
know that he was
could,
going to
like,
be LBJ.
you know, he could wrangle the Senate and the House because he had been a congressman for years and a senator for years, and that didn't wind up happening. Like I think as long as you have gerrymandered, hardcore ideological political divide in the House, like we're not gonna see the end of obstructionism, right? But we are seeing the pinnacle of it at the moment, and the Republicans firing their own speaker, which they will do again, I would wager, is the pinnacle of that obstruction. Now, how long does this last? I think it lasts as long as the Republicans are able to take majorities of the House.
Yeah, until we have a supermajority. Like, do you want things to be done? Well, then pass a supermajority for the left-leaning side of this entire country,
And let's
because
not
then
put
you get
this on
things
the
done.
audience. Like, also, the Democratic Party should be doing a 50-state
no, yeah.
strategy, and
Absolutely.
like the Democratic Party should be recruiting people from the bench to run at the local level, and the Democratic Party should be building the infrastructure to make every election, midterm or special, not just the presidential ones, big motivators to get our base out, right? And they should be passing and proposing legislation that will motivate the base to get out there, and we would see a change in the tide. And if things were passed that were overwhelmingly popular and the Democrats took the reins of power for decades, like they did with FDR, or let's say a decade and a half, and they passed a bunch of really popular things, that would solidify that voting base
Forever.
in that generation for generations to come,
Yeah.
like it did with the union movement in the 40s and 50s. And like civil rights did in opposite for Republicans, solidifying racists as their base in the
Yeah.
South with the Southern strategy. Like the Republicans delivered what that base wanted, racism and the end of Roe v. Wade, and the Democrats need to deliver what their base wants if they want to solidify that base. And we have to run people in all 50 states and win as many as we can to both win that legislation, and then we have to pass that legislation and motivate people to vote even more in those elections for those people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, do I think that problem's going to be changed in the next election? No. I think it's going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and it's going to be a repeat of 2020, and I think it'll be closer, but I hope that Biden wins. I don't know if he will. I think Michigan's looking real rough with him refusing to work on a ceasefire, even stop sending Israel weapons.
Yeah.
But
Isn't he
I
doing
think
that
young
now? I
people
thought
may not show up.
he just sanctioned what are they? Any settlers that are trying to go into the West Bank, Israeli settlers.
Which has already been deemed illegal by the United States and the UN. Yeah, they're occupying like
I
portions
think
of Gaza and the West Bank. Yeah,
it's a hope, but I think Joe is moving a little bit away from it because he knows that the huge voting
see.
block that
We'll see. Stay tuned to America, the conversation.
Yeah,
and
which
we'll
I
talk
will
about
say
it.
I called back in January that he might by April have moved off of that and maybe even almost flipped his position. Probably not because he's pretty in there.
I think he must ideologically absolutely believe in the cause of Zionism, because like helping out Bibi Netanyahu, a man who has openly said he wants you to lose and wants Donald Trump to win, like and like gutting the youth and the Muslim base that you have in your party, like. Why do this?
Yeah,
but this isn't about
understand
that
it.
episode.
Yeah.
I just think that like Mike Johnson, and to relate it back to that, like Mike Johnson wants to pass a Ukrainian and an Israeli like aid package. Like there's a lot of things Mike Johnson wants to pass, but the fact is if they give Joe Biden any wins and as a legislative like body in the next year, Donald Trump is going to crucify them in the media.
Yeah.
And that's what'll happen. He will do something that'll piss Donald Trump or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Jim Jordan or fucking Matt
Speaker that
Gaetz
never was.
off.
Yeah.
And they will fucking put him up, and he will not be able to win the majority, and they will go back to running multiple ballots of who's the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
And then you and I will have like bets running on how long this is going to last. And like, if it goes to day 7, we'll do like a live stream of it happening again. And if it goes to day 30, like I'm going to fucking Twitch live stream it and like take a shot every time we get through a round or something. And like, if it goes until the presidential
like 15
election,
rounds last time, man. I don't know.
we're all going to be like conserving gas so that we can trade it to the gas king instead of for water and ammunition. So Mike Johnson, who is Mike Johnson? He's a right-wing theocrat with crazy fucking ideas who in the end is going to do the bare minimum in his job, and it's still going to get him fired.
Yeah. And you out there, if you know, people like hate watching this show, if you do, you can vote in the primary to make him go away if you don't like him. Like, you can vote for anybody else. Like, that's the best part. Like, I remember, what's his name? The
primary people.
Madison Cawthorn. He got kicked out of Congress because he was primaried and lost for shitty right-wing reasons because they didn't like him because they found out he was gay. But
when I primary someone, it's the most like fun punk I have in electoral politics, which is not useless anyway. It still should do it. It's the bare minimum of what you should do.
Still do it.
But like when I vote in a primary, and I hope that all left and right people feel this way. When I vote in a primary, like it's my opportunity to say, go fuck yourself, to even my own party. And I think, you know, that should be fun. Yeah. But I don't think he'll have time for a primary. I think he'll get kicked out of the Speaker. And then what do? Do you not leave? Like, how do you not resign?
I don't know.
How do you walk the halls of Congress?
Because it hasn't happened until Kevin McCarthy. Like in 100 years. Again.
I don't think it ever actually happened. It was just the first time.
Yeah, like, Kevin resigned.
It was just the first time in 100 years that like even anyone tried. But no one had ever actually fired the Speaker of the House of their own party before.
Yeah. It just doesn't happen. And Mike Johnson will likely, like you said, go away.
Let's go for 3.
He won't, you know, it won't be some weird world where he's trying to push for Gilead to exist, which is kind of the things he believes based off his weird podcasts, based off of his, with his wife that promotes anti-abortion, that he has a weird app that he uses to monitor his pornography addiction. He and his son keep each other accountable so they know if the other is looking at porn on their phone.
His shared porno account's weird.
It's weird. It's called just the Covenant Eyes is the
porno
app.
snitch.
It's real weird. That's not a disqualifying thing for Mike Johnson. It's just he's that right wing to where he would.
Your spouse is supposed to do that, right? Like you've agreed not to jerk it,
not
to
your
like
son
porn or whatever.
Like that's just
you're
gross
boring.
and
But
weird.
I don't feel like your teenage son. Like I would even say your wife should know about that before you do. Like it's so weird. It's so weird. Like I would not want my dad. I don't want my mom either, but I definitely don't want my dad,
my parents,
like at 13 to 17, to know when I looked at porn.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, like this. You know who he reminds me of? He's like Mike Pence if he didn't have albinism.
Yeah,
and
he's
also
a
took
more
Ambien every day.
He's a Mike Pence that actually tried to get a little bit more done. He's not effective, but he did try to overturn the election.
Yeah,
he did
I mean,
actively work with all these people.
Actually
he's
trying to do shit. Yeah,
he's a Federalist
as opposed
Society
to a radio
guy.
jockey like Mike Pence.
Yeah. Mike Pence is kind of just a milquetoast idiot, and Mike Johnson has a useful idiot. So there you go. This, wasn't much of a episode on him. More of it was just get out there and vote. He's boring. There's not a lot on him.
He's the most like empty suit evangelical politician that you could ever imagine.
But he's bad for America. And that's the thing. He's bad. Like he's not their best at all, clearly, because they're about to kick him out of his job. Like he was he's not their best. He was like 5th in that it was like Mike Scalise, or whatever, Scalise, Jim Jordan, and then like one other guy were up. And then it was like Mike Johnson. Like, who the fuck is Mike? There was like 20 articles in November on who is Mike Johnson, like all titled the same thing. He was just a fucking nobody.
Just make it Donald Trump.
Just make it Donald
Trump.
No, please don't do that. They do want that, but he is. What?
Fuck yeah, dude. Have him just running from courthouse to Congress every day.
Oh Lord,
I'm fucking into it. Just campaigning and courthouse and Congress. The 3 C's.
Yeah, that would be funny. But like I said, as we end here, like Mike Johnson isn't going to do much. Didn't do much. He's ineffective. But the people like him not just weird me out, but they scare me because they're the hyper right wing, like Jeff Sessions, who's a member of the Family. I suggest you Google them. We probably won't ever do an episode on them. They're a right wing Christian cult kind of a thing. I don't know if Mike Johnson's a member of it. He probably is.
Talking about cults a lot lately.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of right wing cults in the world, and he belongs to one that, seeks to take away women's rights, that seeks to take away gay people's rights, that seeks to overturn the election, that seeks to implement Project 2025. Please Google that phrase. Like but he's quiet about it. He's not out there in the open. He was this weaselly little guy who was trying to go up to senators Congress, just any congressperson, to say, hey, sign this pledge that you're going to overturn the election. I remember one Republican saying, go fuck yourself to him. Like straight up.
He's not a bombastic theocratic fascist.
No,
he's a pragmatic theocratic
and
fascist.
Quiet and sneaky.
Yeah.
Like he's small and can get into the little crevices of of the annals of democracy.
Snake over a rat. Yeah.
He probably doesn't like the word annal at all, but who knows? So that's it.
I don't know. Hard-right evangelical Republicans love annal and
the annals of the halls of democracy. They're doing lots of stuff in the annals.
I mean, whatever you like. Some people like annal.
Yeah, some people like it. And statistically, lots of right-wingers do. They're all closet homosexuals.
Well, you know what?
And that's sad.
Democrats
that really
have
is
sex
sad.
scandals and Republicans have gay sex scandals. So
that is true. And I'm waiting for the day that Mike Johnson's comes out, but probably won't. And we didn't even mention the weird fact that he has a black son that isn't in any of his pictures, that he said that the reason he adopted him was because if he didn't adopt him at the age of 24, the son at the age of 24, he would have joined a gang, done drugs, and gone to jail. Whether that's true or not, I highly doubt it. But that is one of the quotes I found that he had said. So
allegedly.
Oh no, it was on. There's a BET article in the description that is
I know
his
but
quote.
the implication is alleged.
Well, no, that's what he said. That's Mike Johnson's words. That.
But the weird thing about adopting someone at 24 is the implication that provides. Right?
Oh, sure, yeah, like that is weird in and of itself,
which is only alleged because of the implication. Because it's weird.
It's weird.
Adopting an adult is weird.
It's weird.
Unless you've raised them. I understand if you're step or foster parents.
Sure.
And they turn 18 or they get married or something and they're ceremonially, we would like to say that I'm your kid.
Sure, I guess so.
You.
Yeah.
But the idea that you're adopting someone who's an adult that you met when they were an adult is weird.
It's weird. And Mike Johnson's weird. And he's got a lot of weird beliefs, a lot of scary beliefs. So please, Louisiana, please primary him and get him out. That's where he's from, right? Louisiana?
I believe he's from the great state of Louisiana, yes.
Good for him. Good for Louisiana for hopefully having a different person as your representative in whatever district he represents you. So that's it for the show. He
literally represents the swamp.
Oh, does he? Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that. That's it for They're Not Sending Their Best. Subscribe to the show. Vote, register to vote at vote.org. Oh, who are we? I don't know. Who do you want to do next?
We should say that at the end of these episodes.
We do. We do. I just didn't. I forgot to pick one. Who do we want to do next? Who should we do next? Who's scary? Ted Cruz?
We're not doing Trump till the near the
No. He's obviously not their best.
We could do Nikki Haley.
Oh yeah, we should do Nikki Haley because she's you know what? It's Nikki Haley. That's who we're doing next because she's playing the game very well. She's on
SNL this weekend.
She was, and that's
it was bad.
It was
made
bad.
Me go, they should stop having politicians on this
there.
show.
All of them, not even just the right wing ones. No more politicians on SNL.
They should just stop doing that. It's bad.
All of them.
It makes me be like, ugh. Yeah. It doesn't personalize them or make them human. It makes me hate them more.
So it makes you and I hate them more. But while I will say why I want to do Nikki Haley is because she, by doing that, I think played the game a little bit better than Dawn is.
No. I think it was a depth move. I don't think it'll matter in the end. But we'll talk about this next.
But yeah, I want to do her next because she could. It's probably Trump. It's probably Trump. But I like the fact that she hasn't dropped out. So we'll see. But it might not be. It might not
She's
be.
There
it
in
will
case
be Trump
dies.
She is there in case Trump dies. He goes to jail, and even then, probably still, even if he goes to jail. So
he'll be the nominee if he's in
all
prison.
Right. Don't vote for Mike Johnson. Get him out of office. Subscribe to the show. Stay tuned for
My
Nikki
cock
Haley.
My cock joke. My cock joke.
Andrew wanted to make a Johnson cock joke, so there you go. We're far enough at the end of the episode.
Mike Johnson, my cock.
Mike Johnson, Mike Cock.
My
There we go.
cunt.
Oh. All right. Don't vote for Mike Johnson. Subscribe. Stay tuned for Nikki Haley in 2 weeks.
Don't
Good night,
name your
everybody.
children Mike.
Don't Mike Johnson is a bad name. It is. And no offense to the Mike Johnsons, except for one very specific Mike Johnson. Bye.
It's not a great name.
They're not sending their best. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us.
You've been listening to They're Not Sending Their Best with hosts Andrew Turner and Tim Phillippe. Any news sources mentioned in this episode are listed in the show notes. The theme song for They're Not Sending Their Best is Circus by Music for Videos and was procured through Pixabay before the final version was cobbled together by Timmy Two Step using the terrible words of Donald J. Trump. They're Not Sending Their Best is mixed and edited by Tim Phillippe at Shway Media Studios in Austin, Texas. The show was created by Andrew Turner and Tim Phillippe and is a production of Shway Media and America the Podcast Presents. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com and americathepodcast.com. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.
This has been a production of Shway Media, all rights reserved. For more information, please visit shwaymedia.com.